Okay. I'm doing pretty well. I'm pretty happy because I got a PvE the other day. Okay, so we're going to start a timer. There you go. So this is a pre-recorded PvE. It was actually an online PvE, like I mentioned before. It was the other day. I got the PvE at like 6 a.m. in the morning, 6:30 a.m. more or less, I think. So you can watch that version if you want, although it doesn't have camera and the commentary isn't the best, because that's how it usually goes with runs doing live. There's always this problem of whether, like, you cannot technically repeat the same commentary on every single run, but it's very tiring. So usually just go for a mode where you don't comment every single thing that happens on the game. But this run, this is a video right here, the video of the run. I know it's gonna be a PvE, so I can comment on this. So the first thing here is that that day I run against different splits. I run against my D-Rust splits, let's call them. It was like a 1 hour 40 PV. It was a D-Rust run that I did just sort of coming back to the game. Because I haven't been on any percent for a while before this comeback, I guess, if you want to call it comeback. It's been like a lot of months before the last PvE. Like before this one, I mean. Like last year even. But yeah, here on the other side, I'm running against the previous PvE. So this is the previous record, the 137. That was my previous record. And I'm running against that because I want to compare more or less what was my time save and my improvement on different parts. The old PvE was done on US, whereas this is done on Japanese, which is going to make some difference for sure, because Japanese is slightly faster, but not that much. I don't remember my last estimation of the difference, but I think it was like 6 to 8 seconds. It's a rough estimation because the game Japanese actually doesn't save time on text. I think it was like 0.5 seconds behind US on text last time. Not entirely sure. But it saves time on loading times and in-game cinematics. But it loses time on pre-rendered cinematics, but we have less of those. So at the end, Japanese saves a little bit of time. And maybe someday I'll have Korean. Maybe. Korean is even faster. It's... how much it was? Maybe like 12 seconds? More than Japanese, I think. So it's a little bit more. But the thing about Korean is that it's so fucking expensive. I failed a trick there. There's a trick you can do to turn around during the button. Little cutscene right there. You're supposed to go from A to B to trigger an attack before pressing B. But if I remember correctly, I pressed B to A, actually. That's the first split. And it's behind. That wasn't the best Pious, first of all. For 15, it's alright for Japanese. But I can get like a 413, 412. Although you're always gonna get 2 or 3 seconds. I think it's about 3 slower than US. And remember, this is against US splits, so that's just fine actually. So will you be answering questions from chat? Of course, unless it's something that I like something illegal. But yeah, go ahead if you want. So there's a little trick right here. We want to kill this zombie. More or less at the same time we do this puzzle. The little pause right there is to reactivate Elias movement. And then after we do that, these two cutscenes kind of merge in a way, and you skip a little bit of time from one of the cutscenes. Saves like 2 seconds because you waste time killing the zombie, but you save time because you don't have to see the cutscene. Oh yeah, thank you for asking that actually. So Shadowcat with a good question. What is any percent no CS? So I actually should put the entire name, but it's too late. Whatever. So 80% no CS means no cutscene storage. Cutscene storage is a very broken glitch that it's so broken and makes the game so different that we actually had to split. We decided to split any percent into categories. One with cutscene storage and the other without it. So in this category, you're not allowed to use cutscene storage, basically. And this is just my personal point of view. I think this is what, like for me, this is any percent, you know, just because it's like the main category. But you might have a different opinion, but it doesn't matter. The thing is, you can make the distinction between cutscene storage or no cutscene storage. But this has been the main category. There's like on cutscene storage, there's just one run, which is made by me too. I don't know if someone will ever do another run of that category because it's kind of painful. Like, first of all, to trigger a cutscene storage, you have to do a frame perfect trick after a 30-second cutscene. If you failed it, you have to watch the cutscene again. And once you get it, you have to watch another cutscene. And you don't really know if you get it until you watch the other cutscene. So that's also a time loss, because you have to see if you get it, and if you don't get it, you have to go back in the menu. It's a whole mess, and you have to do the trick like 12 times in the run for it to make it work. So it's kind of painful. Yo Pound, how are you doing? Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy that I just got a PvE because there is a lot of new stuff in the game, and it's like it has been a lot of time without a PvE. I could have done a PvE in a while with the new stuff, but a lot of the new stuff is really hard, and I was a little bit without motivation last year, on the last part of the year. I was just lacking energy in general, so I stepped away from any percent for a while. Can you not play Korean on emulator? Yes, you can. The thing is, emulator is always slower than console. That's just a Dolphin thing. I believe developers did it on purpose, but I don't really have a source of that. But the thing is, loading times are consistently slower on emulator. Regardless of your computer, it's like made to be slower. So Korean on emulator, I don't actually want to measure that, but just by looking at some loading times, should be slower than any of the versions on console, I think. Alright, so there's a considerable time loss here. There you go, 12 seconds. That's because on this area we have a new trick that I'm attempting in runs, which is, so I talk about the cutscene merge on the first zombie, but there's also something similar, not exactly a cutscene merge, but something similar on the second zombie, which allows you to skip a cutscene. So now I'm attempting to do that trick on runs. The problem is the trick is kind of hard, and if you failed it, you lose those 12 seconds, more or less, because you have to watch the entire cutscene plus the time you wasted on the zombie fighting the zombie. So yeah, it's something that can happen right now with the road I'm using or the strats I'm using. If you get it, I don't remember how much it saves. 4 seconds? Or 2? It's not that much. It saves more time on other versions.
You have proven what we have feared.
I mean, not other versions, on other alignments, because you have a weaker zombie on that room. But here in Uyat we have a tutorial zombie, which kind of takes a lot to die. And yeah, so about alignments, just talking about alignments, we measured most of the differences again when I came back to 80% this year. And I think we can finally safely say that Uyauth is the fastest one. Because for a while, people started running. I think the very first run was like on Chaturga. I don't know. Maybe. Not entirely sure. But I think it was. But then people started going Zelda, which kind of looked like the fastest one for a bit. And eventually people started going Uyauth, because there were a lot of stuff that looked better on Uyauth. And there's like one point here I got hit. It was so bad. This Anthony is pretty bad. At least I got hit just once. There was another run where I got hit twice. So for a while, we really didn't know which one was faster, whether Zelda or Uyauth. Especially after Black Guardian skip. Because with Black Guardian skip, like before Black Guardian skip, Uyauth Black Guardian was the fastest. Just because you can do like a very fast Guardian. Guardian. But then Black Guardian skip, both Zelda and Uyauth take the same time because you skip them, except for Uyauth has a cutscene at the beginning that you cannot skip. You always have to see how Uyauth Black Guardian does the nice sanity effect. Summons the spheres, the magic spheres, whereas Zelda you start immediately. So yeah, I even got a sanity effect there. I think it might be guaranteed to always have one there if you get a hit from the zombie, because I might be below 50 at a certain point in the timer. Alright, so this is orange skip. We do a lot of weird shit to skip using the urns, basically. And like we can use some weird exploits to make a spell before the cutscene starts, and then when you finish an enchantment inside a cutscene, you usually get movement after that. I say usually because I'm not sure if it will always happen on every cutscene, but that's usually what we use to start moving on some cutscenes. there are other methods too, but enchant item is what we have here. And the good thing is you can just go to the door before it closes, because it actually doesn't have collision right there. It's just the collision is on the door. There's no invisible wall or anything. There's an invisible wall after the door, but not in the door place. Then I cancel a sanity effect there with a spell. That's like, it's a very reliable method to skip sanity effects. Just do a spell. Like, if you know you're gonna get, or you can get, a sanity effect on the next room, you can do a spell, cancel it, and go to the door transition immediately. Or as fast as you can. And then you won't have a sanity effect. Alright, here, I need to readjust it a little bit. 2 tries lost. Third try, I think, yeah. Ideally, I want to get that on first try. That's a trigger bypass. I got stuck by the zombie. Okay. All these golds that you're going to see here are kind of fake, by the way. Like, there's no way that is an actual gold, but this is just because I'm comparing to the very old splits of my last PvE. But there's no way that Anthony is like a real gold with all those mistakes. So yeah, you're probably gonna see time losses, and everything that is not a time loss might look like a gold. So yeah, and after we measure all the differences, finally, we can safely say that Oyao is the fastest one.
Dreams.
This chapter right here, Karim, is actually one that makes a huge difference. Not just on time save, but also on playstyle. This is one of the chapters that changed the most. Changing from one alignment to the other, because it's kind of one of the few chapters where you actually have to fight stuff to advance. Like, there are other places in the game where we fight stuff just because it's better or more safe. But in most places you don't have to fight. So we just run past enemies. But here there are 2 places, 2 scripted fights, let's call them, where you have to kill every enemy in order to advance, or most of them. And that's a great advantage for Oyao, because we have pretty much just Oyao enemies on those fights. We try to do an enchant item there, because it allows you to move in this cutscene and have an enchanted item, but I failed. It's a frame perfect trick. Very few times you can have a 2-frame window, and other very few times you can have a 0-frame window, so it's impossible sometimes. So in a couple minutes in, you're gonna see the advantage of having Oyao zombies instead of other zombies. But not yet. First we have to kill this horror. This is the only bad part of Oyao, that we have a Chaturga horror. Chaturga horrors are very strong. What is that menu? Jeez. We're gonna leave the horror about to die, but it's not dead yet. It's like 1 hit from dying. So we can kill it with a chakram and go through the door at the same time. and that saves us having to see the horror dying animation, because it's actually a cutscene. It has black bars and you cannot move while you see it dying. We still cannot figure out a way to skip that little cutscene right there with Edward. We know there's a way. Finally got one of those. And so there is a way to do it, because I've gotten like 3 times a skip. It just completely bypasses the cutscene. I think it has something to do with the recovery I usually do before it, but I cannot reproduce it, so we don't really know. So here you're just killing zombies. Every time you kill a zombie, you wanna watch a cutscene. I mean, every time you kill all of them, and that unloads the corpses, all the zombies that are on like finish it state. So here, no magic message, into the cutscene, then you cancel it, you press start to recover movement, and now I can move in the cutscene. I'm actually moving just out of the camera. That movement is fairly hard. I mean, it's not that hard, but... And I got a mistake there. I don't want to kill the zombie that way. I want to kill it with a body attack, because it gets me the rune faster. And it triggers an explosion. But that's fine. I still got that thing, which is the oldest glitch, like the very first glitch that was discovered in this game. By Ulscoab, I think. The guy with the segmented run on SDA. And you basically time your enchantment to start and then finish during the cutscene. Alright, so right there, I put the toolbar, and then I use the talisman. And that is to see if I have a sanity effect called Explosion. Well, the real name is Spellcast Bust, I think. Or Spell Bust. But I call it Recovery Explosion. So if you use the talisman, and the count, because the talisman has a number, a limit of how many times you can use it. If the number doesn't go down, that means you will have an explosion. You know, because the talisman doesn't get used when you get one, because you're gonna get the sanity effect. So that way you can know if you have it activated or not. And that's gonna be important later for another chapter. So right here, I was running around there. That was actually on purpose. That wasn't just me running around. Sir discovered a new thing a couple days ago, or like a week ago, where there's a trigger for this fight that triggers the fight in the first place, and it's like below this barrier right here. So the trigger activates the cutscene when you enter for the first time, but then the trigger is still there, and actually every time you cross the trigger, you can like trigger a zombie summon immediately. Because if you don't do that, there's like a cycle. I think it's like a 30 frame cycle that is always going on, and zombies will only summon on that cycle, you know. But you can skip that cycle, like going through the trigger. And there's actually more improvements I can do on that fight. But that's gonna be for the next run. And then at the end of the fight, there's some tricky movement in cutscene too, and out of camera. Again, using the no magic message trick, which we're gonna use more later in the run. Little mistake right there. I'm trying to optimize my movement as much as I can by always stopping using target, because you store your speed when you stop using target. So then when you come back to running, because you have to stop running to press B prompts, but then after that you have to keep running. So the best way to stop is with target, because you store your speed. So here, I usually wait a little bit before opening that door to make another trick consistent. Although I think this time I waited too much. Because if you wait too much, it also affects. And that's because, spoilers, I failed the trick. But I think I could have got it. I kind of was in a bad position too. So here there's a similar trick to the Karim horror with Chakram. You can do something similar here, where you kill the horror at the same time you open the door. That was so bad. I even got hit by the electricity. So you skip basically that cutscene right there. You can skip that. The rest of Max, I think it was decent, if I remember correctly. So now we're gonna get the letter to trigger the sepia effect, and with that gain access to Sota. So right here I'm gonna spend some magic and then make an enchantment here. If you happen to get the enchantment in the cutscene, which again, frame perfect, you can, with a wasted magic, you can do a recovery that will trigger no magic message, and with that you can do the trick to move during the cutscene. If you don't get it, doesn't matter, because we still need the enchantment to kill this horror. Otherwise it takes like 5 bullets. I need to do a scroll trick right there. Failed it a little bit. The scroll trick is to avoid having to scroll down all the way in the text of items. You just have to see the entire zoom of the item, and then on like one frame before the text appear, it's like the first frame where you can scroll between pages, and then the next time you zoom in, you can just press A immediately and it will examine the thing. And on Japanese, it's maybe the version that helps the most, because it has the longest text in items. On Korean, for example, it's like texts are so fast in Korean that there's many items, if not every item, you actually don't do a scroll trick. So that's a spelling cutscene. That one's also frame perfect. And although this one, because you're going down in stairs, I think you can get the 2-frame window more. I think, I'm not entirely sure. But you do the enchantment inside the cutscene, and then no magic message, and during the pause, you can reload your weapon. And it's very funny because the max is invisible, but you can actually see the guns still floating there, being reloaded. Right there, I went back because you either need to gain some height to attack again, or you need to wait a little bit. And that's because when you attack the Guardian, there you go. Oh, that was pretty decent compared to the PV, but it wasn't a great max. I mean, it was a decent max. It's just that I didn't got the horror. So every time you hit the Guardian does some kind of movement that I think lowers its hitbox or its center or something. So if you try to attack immediately after the first shot, your next shot is gonna be caught by the stairs because you are aiming slightly downwards, you know? So you have to wait for the Guardian to completely recover its hitbox, or you have to gain some height. Gotta do some assignments here. Create the spell that it's probably gonna be the protagonist of the run. If not, the big reason why this is a PV. And you see the difference in loading time. Like, that loading time was really fast compared to emulator. Just the loading time of the chapter was super fast compared to what I'm used to when I practice on emulator. And this is playing on Wii, by the way. GameCube has slower loading times. So what's going to happen here is bronze skip or bronze door skip. The bronze door is this gate that we need to open using the bronze necklace or bracelet. Which one is? Necklace. But we don't actually need to do that. I can lure this zombie right here into the corner, make a damage field, which is basically a portable wall, then get grabbed, push the zombie into the wall, and then the zombie pushes you into the gate. And that allows you to skip it, and that saves like 27 seconds. But if you fail it, you lose about that time, or like 40 seconds, I don't remember. So, and it's one of, in my opinion, it's one of the hardest tricks in the game. That's another one. That's another wall clip. That's the silver door skip. And that one is way easier. Like, it's way easier because it has a very consistent setup and like a consistent position where you can do the damage field, a consistent position after that where you can clip, and the zombie always starts on the same place. So it's extremely consistent if you get it right. On the other hand, bronze skip, it depends on a lot of stuff because the Reaper movement kind of depends on your first trip in the room. And then where it summons the zombie depends on your position and the Reaper position. And then the movement of the zombie is kind of inconsistent too. I mean, it depends only on you, but that doesn't mean you can control it very well. I tried to go 3 times for that. Should have stopped on the second one. That's to get an enchantment in the button cutscene right here. And then you can move in the cutscene. And the cutscene is so long that you can move in the cutscene, like be right next to the gold bracelet, and also do 2 sanity recoveries during the cutscene. So you almost have full sanity. It's a very cool trick, and it helps a lot. So you see I'm sneaking right here, because I don't want to do a recovery with low sanity. Although I could have done it. I could have done it because I didn't have explosion on Kareem. But I think my train of thought was I don't want to risk it, because like I got bronze skip. I don't want to risk this run. At this point I was like, this can't be beat, so I'm gonna play slightly safe. Is Mantric percent still a thing? Not really. I don't know if it ever was a thing, personally. I think it kind of was a thing maybe at the beginning when they created the category, because there was potential for different strats, you know, having Mantric spells. But today, it doesn't seem that Mantric spells do much of a change on any percent at least. So the run ends up being like any percent plus longer Lindsey, you know? And that isn't very entertaining. Cancel spell there to skip a sanity effect. There's an scripted sanity effect on this room. So yeah, I don't personally like Mantric percent because of that, because it's just any percent with a longer Lindsey. Although I think 100% has potential. I might run that in the future, as soon as we can came up with a rule set. But I think I have a decent rule set for that. And right here, you see the camera is shaking. That's a sanity effect. We got a horror camera shake. And I was very happy about it because I wasn't sure about recovery. I mean, supposedly I don't have it right now. And that means I cannot cancel spells, sanity effects yet. So when you don't get it on Kareem, there's always a possibility that you're gonna get a sanity effect right here. It's just something that can happen. And like, if you want to play extremely safe, you can do spell cancels on every single room at the end of Lindsey. I love that strat. You can like target stuff on the blades for like a fraction of a second. It's like a super fast one. And it almost looks like you go just straight on the blades, like on Elia. But you actually cannot go straight because otherwise the blades catch you. But with that little stop, it's fairly consistent and it looks pretty cool. And it's fast. And there you go. So that's compared to another Lindsey. Like, I don't remember if I got the enchanting the button in my previous PV. Maybe I did. But that 37, like, at least 30 of those is just from the bronze skip. That thing saves a lot of time. So from here, you're gonna start seeing my magic dropping down randomly in like here and on the next chapters. That's because I'm doing recoveries to trigger explosions. And every time you trigger an explosion, that overrides the last sanity effect or the next sanity effect that you're gonna get. For, I mean, it overrides it, and then a new one will trigger on about 9 seconds
In Europe,
after you
during the time
cancel
of the
your
Inquisition,
recovery. And you can also get like 3 minutes of no sanity effects if you get a no magic message with a recovery. So now Paul is one of the longest chapters right now on any percent. Like, Alex still longer because of bias. Although you can argue that the pious portion of Alex is another chapter. I mean, it resets a lot of memory allocations, but it's one of the longest. I think it's like 13 minutes, 13 to 14 minutes. And it's basically because it has a lot of backtrack. Like, without that backtrack, the chapter wouldn't be that long, I guess. I guess it would be like Peter, probably.
Ah, Brother Luther, not a moment too soon.
And it's kind of a shame, because there is actually some interesting stuff on Paul. But it does drag a little bit on the speedrun, I think. Like, if I have a bad run, and like the next chapter is Paul, if the run is like bad, even if I can save it, I am like, oh, I don't want to play Paul, you know, just to maybe lose the run later. Here, I took the bad path. Should have gone through the left. And there's a lot of sloppiness in the later part of the game, and that's because I was very nervous. Because this is my very first run where I got bronze skip. Unlike any percent. The other, I've gotten on individual levels before, but never on an 80% run. And yeah, it's a lot of nerves because, like I said, it's a 30-second time save. So from there, it's basically just play safe, at least against my PV. The idea was just play safe, you're gonna get a PV. So that's the nerves. So here I had to spend the bolt of the crossbow, because we need an empty crossbow for an incoming trick. But first we're gonna get some items. And you see I'm shooting before getting the items. That's because when you have an empty crossbow, there is a lot of B prompts that won't trigger, because the game wants you to reload, but you can avoid that by doing an attack before, because you cannot reload while doing a failed attack. And then, so I bypass this trigger using the trick of no magic message, and after that what I'm supposed to do is wait until I reload the crossbow. This time I didn't. So that's gonna give a mistake later. And bypassing this trigger allows us to do this very cool fight against Anthony. He doesn't wake up for the first phase, and you can just kill him in the floor. And then for the second phase, he will wake up, but he takes a lot, and we can speed that up using a damage field. It basically boosts him into waking up immediately, or as soon as his hitbox is active, rather. So here on my Diros run, I actually got this trick right here, which is frame perfect and position precise, let's call it. Not position perfect, but precise. And here I realize I have no bolts. Shit. Because you need a bolt. You need to kill the horror with a bolt. So that was a time loss. And this is one also. It's also one of the hardest tricks in the game, I think. Although I find it slightly easier now. Still frame perfect, but because I used to do it from the other side and almost never got it from the other side, but from this side, if I get the frame, I usually get the trick. There's some interesting movement in these passages to kill the zombies fast. And there might be an improvement on this one that I need to look for at some point. Although, looking at it again, I don't know if we can save time by that, because we still need to wait for the zombie. Like the knockback of the zombie. So I'm not sure, but I need to test that. My health is very low here, and that's gonna cost me. And now that I think about it, that maybe was because of the extra damage of the horror. Because I got 1 electricity. So here, 1 sanity damage, another one, and that's low health. So I gotta do an early pull. And we're gonna have some slow pull for a couple seconds. Yeah, on this part you also always kind of have to watch out for your health. It also depends how some of the blue zombies behave. Sometimes they decide to explode faster, so they don't look at you. There's always one that looks at you, but I think you can skip the other. But yeah, the good thing is we're not that tight on stamina at the end. Or rather, the timing for the pulls, we need to do 2 pulls. And we still have some spare time. So you can do an early pull and you're fine. Or, of course, if you want like the safest strat, would be just using the meditation rod to recover all your sanity. Which also used to be the oldest strat. Like the old runs have that. Although there it was more because that allowed you to don't have any sanity effects, which is not a problem anymore. Because we can manipulate them. That was such a breakthrough for me. Like when we got the sanity list and manipulation with recovery. That used to be such a big part of RNG on this game. There's some effects that take like 19 seconds. Upside down rooms take like 30 seconds. I failed one spell. And here, I just created 5 reveal, which is not necessary on the, let's call it the latest iteration of the road. On what would be the riskier nice sanity effect. That was my fault. That shouldn't happen. And so the best road doesn't use reveal because you use zombie hover on Roberto, and that's what you can call the best but most risky road, because zombie hover is a super risky strat. And again, here, just because I knew it's a guarantee PV at this point, I decided to not go for it. So yeah, that's some spoilers. There's no zombie hover on this run. I'm sorry to say. Maybe on the next one. Because on the next one, well, wait, I need to find something where to save time. So here you can zoom on that, on the custodian, and then just move the stick around, and that will trigger the cutscene anyways. You don't actually have to read the custodian message or description, whatever. And then getting rid of the bone thieves. That is a fairly consistent strat. There's another strat with a magical attack, but the one with attack cancels it's pretty good. I really like that strat actually with the sword. Like at first it's pretty scary when you don't quite get it, but once you get the timing of it and all that, it's consistent and it's pretty fun. Recovery right there to skip the sequel effect. And then more recoveries for the next effects. We're going for the 88 keys right now. I'm pretty sure I failed one piano at some point. Probably wasn't Peter. It's kind of slow there. Like I remembered at the last second that I kind of need a recovery. So right here, something really fun happened. So I signed it, reveal, and then I summoned the zombie, but for some reason it didn't summon. That's the message that you get when there's like no position for the zombie to be summoned. You get it, you know, when you are in like very small spaces or things like that. I've never gotten there. That's the first time I saw it there. I have no idea how consistent it is, like how much, like it's if that's going to be a problem or something. I guess it's probably not going to happen as soon as you like stop right there and wait for Alex to stop her animation. But I'm just not sure. Maybe something about doing the zombie from the pause Because now I'm doing that because of the assignments I have currently. And yeah, what that accomplishes, the whole thing with the zombie and running out of bounds, is skipping Edward. Because normally you need a pickaxe to open that room. And that means you need to beat Edward to get the pickaxe. But you actually don't need the pickaxe, you only need to get into the loading zone, and that triggers the cutscene. And then after that you are inside the room. And you get the stethoscope, and with the stethoscope you can go to Michael after Peter. And you're just keeping Edward. That is the second biggest time save, you can call it. I mean, as a standalone time save, is the biggest. But as a glitch, you know, zombie clip, is the second biggest, I guess. Because the biggest time save would be cutscene storage. Because cutscene storage saves like 30 minutes? 35, something like that. While zombie clip is like 20 minutes of Edward plus some other minutes of the other zombie clips. Like Black Guardian skip, bronze and silver. So here, I actually got the scythe, the sword, but that wasn't for zombie hover, because I'm not gonna use zombie hover again. I used the sword to cut one zombie's head, and that saves you from 1 sanity damage, which is pretty good on this road, because on this road we're super tight on magic for this part, because we need full magic to do a zombie and then do a recovery. I mean, a reveal invisible. And we can cast the reveal invisible after we release the zombie, and the zombie just walks forever into the thing. So, because we need to be tight on magic, I mean, we are tight on magic, you cannot go for a recovery. Like, just spend magic on recoveries to don't get sanity effects. And that means you have to risk 1 sanity effect at least. But if you cut 1 zombie head, you're gonna have exactly 50% sanity. And with that, you're gonna get a bleeding walls, which is the best sanity effect in the game. After explosion, I guess. But it's the best, like, Pacific or not dangerous effect, whatever. Harmless, there you go. Also one of the longest ones. Yeah, and the thing is that killing the zombie and getting the sword is not that much time. It's still suboptimal for this road. Like, the optimal thing would be just risk it and try to see if you get a sanity effect or not. If you don't get anything, you're fine. But you can also get, like, bloodbath and lose 19 seconds. Or there are just a lot of others that you lose like 10 to 12 seconds. Like Seeking Feeling, Expand Player, Shrinking Player, stuff like that. Those are like the ones you can get. Because you don't have... I wasn't close enough to the door right there. you don't have sanity low enough to get the ones that involve enemies, like one hit KO or controller malfunction, illusion of grandeur, which is small enemies, by the way. All of those you need to have like less than 25% sanity. I am definitely not used to use the the sword for this. This is like the first time in life, at least running this game, where I have the sword for the rope and not the torch. Because in Zombie Horror, when you have the sword equipped, you don't need to cut that thing, because you just float over the bridge. And in the other road, you have the torch. And that was the last survey. Right there. So we're good to go. And yeah, from here it's kind of the same as Paul, just a little bit of drag at the end, because you need to backtrack. I guess it would be cool if the chapter just ended, maybe, on your last survey. Like, I bet if Eternal Darkness is made today, that would be the decision, I think. Kinda something similar that it's like on the same line of thought. Something I asked Dennis on the last stream Q&A. I asked him if at some point they considered, like, when you get the 5 circle, the 5-point circle for spells, did they ever consider to give the player all the spells? You know, like, you just have all the spells on 5 points once you have the circle, instead of having to make them. And he said something similar, like, if the game is made today, that would be like a good decision by more modern standards, you know, just not drag the player so much. Like, don't make the player do things that are that fun, let's say. Because the player already figured out on the level 3 spells, you know? The rest is just add paragons, but yeah, it was a time of nothing was automatic, you know, like no autosave to and all that. That's usually a thing that that trolls a lot of people that try to stream the game for the first time. On like today, a lot of people just don't know that this game doesn't have autosave. So there's a time save, like a substantial time save there in Roberto. That's because my PV had a very bad Roberto. Like you see there, it's like 30 seconds. Well, I lose about 30 seconds just by a mistake. I spent magic in a place that prevented me from doing a shield. So I had to like walk for like 30 seconds to recover the magic. It was very bad. My light is farther away on this setup. So here, gotta spend some magic to do a no magic message into another one. And this one, for some reason, we can move immediately. We don't need a pause. We only sometimes need a pause to move after those. Oh, it's probably because we got to another room, actually. I think those ones you don't need a pause. Here, after the trapper does the attack, there's this little cooldown where the trapper dies. You can avoid that, but it's kind of risky because it's a 2 to 7 frame window. So 7 frame window sounds pretty nice, but 2 frame window isn't that great, and you don't actually know what window you're gonna get because it depends on a global timer. Like, if you train yourself to get the 2 frame window always, then it's gonna work for you. But it's kind of risky because if you don't get it, you lose the magic, and doing any magic mistake in Peter is very bad because we're super magic tight on this chapter. So, some cool assignments right there. We're gonna get the light back. Assignments is probably the highest APM part of the run, I guess. Among with maybe some attack cancel parts or animation cancels on Pius. I can do that spell inside the cutscene, but I failed it. I think it's one of the easiest one to get, so I was kind of mad that I failed it. Oh, look at that! I got all the organs. I thought I'd missed one. Maybe it wasn't another run, I guess. Here, you have to stay away from the lower walls of this part. The small little walls that are on the lower part. Because if you get too close to them, you're going to activate the bone thieves. And they're gonna start chasing you. But as soon as you are far away from them, you're gonna be fine. And then there's a sanity pool, and this is to prevent health damage, because otherwise you're gonna be low health at some point. And it also helps having some sanity during the Black Guardian, which gives you just like an extra couple seconds to set up a zombie, because otherwise you have 0 sanity and you have to be like, you don't have that much time to set up the zombie. But it's definitely enough time, it's just more safe. And also, the lack of sanity effects here is because we did a no magic message with a recovery right after the trapper. That's actually a safety measure. It involves, like, there's several ways to do it. Right here, that little walk there was just to recover a tiny bit of magic. I just did it because why not? So this road can be tied on magic at the end. But yeah, there's several ways to do that, or rather there's 2 ways, or just avoid it. There's no really reason to avoid it, but you can do it with your pre-assigned sanity recovery, or you can assign a tutorial recovery, which is better for magic. But it wastes like a little bit more time because you have to assign an extra spell. And that's what I did on this run, by the way. So, setting the zombie there, going to the corner, getting grabbed, and then getting into a wall. It's Black Guardian skip. How much did that save? It's like 2 minutes, I think. 2 or 3 minutes. It's a lot of time. And you can do the same on the Zelda Guardian. It's just the setup is slightly harder, I think. I didn't.
Please help me.
We're going to skip that one. It's fine. I always forget to like. I usually forget to split on Peter for some reason. It just happens. Either that or I split late. Probably because of the action of Black Guardian. There I got the shotgun. We're gonna need the shotgun later at the end of the run for Pius. And then as you can see, we go to the basement. Not to use the penny, but to open this thing immediately. But we still have to use the penny. just because we need to get rid of it. We don't actually need nice turnaround there. It's not that we need to active this thing, but it is more of we need the penny out of our inventory because otherwise that's a crash on Pius. The game doesn't like when you have unintended items in the Pius fight because it does some sort of inventory cleanup, getting rid of some extra diary pages that you have. And my theory is that when it does that, it wants to get rid only of those items, and if you have extra items, weird shit happens, and that crashes the game. Any unintended item that you have on Pi's fight will do that. I can do a fast pick up there, but I failed it just barely. There's a little time loss here on Michael, because I need to do a moving in cutscene using a pre-rendered cutscene. But I accidentally did in-game cinematic right here. I was matching A because I thought I was on the correct position. What I do is I set up the position of that before, so I am in the correct spot. But so I have that muscle memory. So it's like 7 seconds, I guess, around there. And then you can move here and open, come to the tomb dimension a little bit early. And if you do it too fast, there's the risk of a soft lock. Rather, if you're extremely fast, you won't get it. If you're a little bit slow, you're gonna get it, so it's risky. And then if you're not sure you're gonna get it or not, you can always wait a little bit until you see the tiny slab of the ladder going down. As soon as you see that part of the cutscene, you can open the thing and you're totally fine. Never gonna be a slow. Then we did a magic pull here because Michael has pathetic magic and it's one of those chapters that need the most spells. It's kind of crazy the amount of spells you need. You need 7 reveal, trapper, 7 bind. You need this spell if you go for. That was so fucking scary. I was so scared there. And so unnecessary. I didn't even need to go that risky. If you go for the Enchanted Gladius, you need this spell too. You don't actually need shield, but shield is useful for the electricity. And you also need 7 enchant for the bomb, so he needs everything. It's crazy. Like, the only thing he doesn't need to is like... No, he actually does a summon. Like, at least it's a trapper summon. And not something more expensive. So this horror fight, I think it was like 28 seconds. Which is about average. Just got stuck there. Never go that side if that is the horror that leave. So average on Ouya horrors, I think it is like 24 to 27 seconds. That's like average fight. And then there's the what I like to call the insta kill, which is like 7 seconds, which is what I got on what I did on the human task. And then if you get anything over 30 seconds, things get pretty bad, because the binded horror stops being binded, and from there it doesn't attack anymore. So it basically reduced your probability by half, because just one horror can die from there. And yeah, so over 30 seconds it usually takes a lot more. There was one run where I got... What was my record on that? Like a minute 16? I mean, it was a little bit more than a minute 10. It's like... What the fuck? Yeah, and Ouya horrors are also kind of weird, because on the statistic I have, I've done the fight many times and see more or less how the numbers look with the RNG, and what I got is that Ouya has the biggest dispersion of values. So basically it's like I've gotten the biggest amount of insta kills with Ouya, so like just 7 seconds, but I also got the longest ones more often than the other ones. Whereas Chaturga and Celta ones seem to be a little bit more consistent, you know? Like more close to average in dispersion. So it's like high risk, I guess, for Ouya. It's one of the downsides of Ouya, you can say. But again, it's just a statistic, so it's RNG, it's luck, you know? It doesn't really depend on you. Not yet, maybe. Maybe someday we will control it. That would be amazing. Because, you know, there's actually a way to skip that barrier. But it's so fucking slow. You have to watch Atches to Atches, a cutscene. Like, I don't remember how many times. It's a lot. It's like 40 times, 30 something times. And then, like, you have to fire a lot of explosives. It's kind of a mess. But it's a way to skip that barrier without using spells. And yeah, every time you watch Atches to Atches there, it's like 45 seconds. So that times 20 to 40, because I don't remember the number. It's a lot of time. So we finally reach Alex's end. And here we just gotta get to Enga, using some explosions in the way to avoid sanity effects, and making some pulls to recover my sanity. The first pull is to make a trick that is going to happen just possible for humans, let's call it. That sound right there, by the way, was a follow in my previous stream. It's a sound from Perfect Arc that I use for follows. And so the first pull is to make the trick possible for humans, because otherwise it's way too hard. Because you don't have sanity on a while you summon a trapper, and that makes it really, really hard. And the second pull is just for safety. It's completely unnecessary, actually. Like, I could play without the second pull. But I find it, like, I might start doing it at some point. For now, I'm doing it because what you're doing is you're trading a cast of a pull, which is like 2.4 seconds, I think. Or 2.1, I don't remember. You're trading that time for doing spell cancels before the main room of Enga. Because that's the only room where you can have sanity effects. Because yeah, with one pull, you're below 50% sanity. So you can have sanity effects. And that means you need to do spell cancels. I don't remember how many, but basically you have to worry about that. And I didn't want to worry about that, so I did an extra pull. And again, doing spell cancels takes some time. Probably less time than casting and pull, but I don't think it's that much of a difference. And you can also play your luck, like if you happen to see a good sanity effect, like the volume or bleeding walls or anything else, then you don't need to cancel anything. So yeah, like right there I would need to do a cancel if I just do one pull. So next one is number 4, right here. And here's when the trick comes. It's what I call warm warp. That trapper was kind of a mess. What I should have done there is lure the trapper a little bit more, so I would make it explode. Because it didn't explode, I played extremely safe there and did a lot of target run. Target run is running while you press target with a certain rhythm, and that is very similar to sneak. So right there I have a bad position, so I try it again. That position was better. That was time loss, although I'm still kind of doubtful about that position right there. I'm not entirely sure that will work. And it didn't work at the end, so whatever. So that was an attempt to do warp warp. Warp warp is frame perfect. Oh Jesus! I tried to do an animation cancel there. It's a frame perfect trick that I want to implement in runs, and what I'm doing right now is that I always attempt to do it because you only lose about 12 seconds if you, let's say, you don't fail your position like I did there. Like there I lose like 20 something. But if you do it right and you just failed it, it's about 12 seconds. It's not that much really. I mean, it's bad, but it's not that bad compared to the big amount that you can save. So I'm actually always attempting it now in my runs. It's just like, I mean, what if I get the frame, you know? That would be cool. If I don't get it, well, 12 seconds. I can live with that. It's funny because the RNG that we have on Alex at the end, you can lose way more than 12 seconds. On just like if you don't get Warm Warp, lose it on the Bind fight or later in Pious. Pious can be so bad sometimes. So this is an scripted pause. We need a pause here because we need to watch a cutscene. So I use this pause to do some assignments. So we add the optimal amount of pauses on Enga. There's no extra pauses on this road. And also, like, if you fail Warm Warp on that last pause, you assign a bind, you know? Because we actually have one spell to spare on the assignments. So we can just do that. And if you get it, you just don't do it. Because also you still need the pool in your assignments in that case, so. But yeah, but it's a shame that we still need to create bind because we still use it on Michael. If there is a way to skip bind on Michael, then we can just avoid creating bind entirely. That would be some time saved on Peter. Or whenever you're creating that spell. And in that case, if you get to this point and you fail the worm, you have to create it there. But it's not that big of a deal. Also, another thing about this road. So this road is optimized in pauses, it's also optimized in shields, and it's optimized in stamina. So we do the shields every time we need stamina. So because you have to stop and then you recover stamina, and that way you don't have to cast any pulls or recoveries to run forever. It should be like halfway, I think. Number 2. Let's see. No, we're more than halfway. Nice. There's gonna be 3 more. 3 portals more. Spending some magic there to do a no magic message. There's a timer for the electricity that is kind of always running. So if you can, like, you can make the timer get the next shock of the electricity while you're doing something that cannot trigger an electricity. So what I did there is I put the no magic message and then the timer finished while the no magic message was up, so it didn't trigger a shock, and then you just get rid of it and keep running. And some target running on the trappers. I used to use the revolver here, but doing target runs is just way faster. And also that way you can punch the door here. That also saves a little bit of time. Otherwise you would need to use bullets on the door, and you will eventually run out of bullets. You also, at some point, if you need the bullets, you cannot go for portal cancels. Yes, empty revolver won't do it. that was super scary because the trapper was running downwards, and I was completely unsure about the trapper on the left, because trappers have a bigger hitbox that they appear. So a lot of times what happens is trapper is close to a wall, but it's like it doesn't look as close. But if you actually try to go to sneak between the wall and the trapper, you get stuck, and you activate the trapper. So I just played safe there. Like the Spire number 1, it's probably the scariest part on this road because no revolver and no magical attack too. It's too narrow, and there's 3 trappers. You know, the other one, it's like Spire number 6. There's like 10 trappers, but there's a lot of space for you to work. It's just not as bad. So then here, bind. Let's see how much time this bind took. It started on 31:20. So that right there, that was extremely fast. The first horror. But the second one, I think, was kind of slow. And here, the walking around, it's on purpose and kind of mandatory. That's for magic. So that took 44 from 20. I was 24. That's kind of alright. Kind of average. A little bit over average, I think, for this mine. And you want to walk around because you want to recover magic for the incoming shield. In the past, we used to use a sanity, a magic pool there to get magic, but we actually don't need it as long as you keep walking. Just got the examining. That something's happened to me. And there's a bunch of time loss there, and that's because even like my new road is faster because no revolver, some optimizations here and there. Well, I don't know about the bind because I don't know how the bind went on the last run, but there is this thing about failing the worm, you know. I'm pretty much always gonna lose a little bit of time on it, on Alex, because of the worm. Either that or I win a lot. So Pious. This Pious fight. Okay, so enchant item. We need an enchanted Gladius. Only thing that works against Pious. And then we need to start hitting the artifact and hope for a good position, which I didn't got on the first artifact. So far here, this is looking like the absolute worst Pious possible. So far. I was kind of upset about that. I'm actually always upset if I get the first artifact and a slow artifact. It's just so... Jeez. Another slow one. And then we just keep going. Because why not? There's some parts of this fight where you can do animation cancels, but most of the time you cannot. And here I got lucky. So Pious was close enough to got fast artifacts on this circle, which was pretty cool. Like from this time I started like saving time, you know. And here I made a bad decision. I decided to just go for it and attack with Max. I should have waited or lure an attack or something, because Max is so slow. And like the thing was just summoned, so that can happen. That sometimes you randomly miss the thing for no reason. There I go on a spell on Roberto, which is always good, because that means Pius is not chasing you. Otherwise, it's like kind of risky with Roberto. He's just so slow. And here we're gonna do enchantless. So one shot, then one animation cancel, and so forth. And Shogun is just the most broken weapon in the game. And yeah, if you don't make it with all your Shogun shots, you can always use the Gladius to finish him off. I got kind of lucky right there with the shots, I gotta say, because I wasn't that far away, but the last shot I didn't do it point blank. What I usually do is I do the last shot point blank, so you get the 40 damage, full damage of the shotgun. So I kind of got lucky that I killed it on just one Gladius.
It is finally
Yeah, that's it. 135-44.
Finished. For now, at least.
With a fairly slow Pius,
Incredibly courageous young woman. Your mother and father would have
but
been
much
proud of
better
you,
overall run
just as I am. I'm sorry
than the
it
other
had to be
PB,
like this.
for sure.
It's not quite the inheritance I had in mind for you, but there was so little time
And now we also,
and so much to do.
I don't know about the last one, but on this one
Goodbye, Alex.
we
I will
do
miss you.
a kinda new game plus. I mean, kinda no new game plus, kinda. So we actually get to
As I
see
gazed
the
at
first
the
ending
ancient
right
I
here.
brought into this world to stop Pius, my mistake was made clear. This ancient could lay the world to ruin just as easily as Pius's would have. And yet, as quickly as it began, it ended. To think that once I could not see beyond the veil of reality, to see those who dwell behind. I was once a fool.
I think that's my favorite ending. Like, line. You don't get to see Mantorok though. Because of that. But yeah, overall it was a good run. Early game it's kind of bad. Like up to Anthony, things are pretty much bad. I can save a lot of time. On Pius, there's a little time save, but that's not that much. Elia is a big time save. Anthony, there's also a big time save there. I fail a lot of stuff. Karim, there's small improvements, but it was okay. Max, I failed the horror, so that's some seconds. Thank you, Pound. And then Paul was alright, but it could have been better. For sure. Like, I fucked up the crossbow thing, but it's good that I fucked it up, because now I know. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. Ever. Roberta was weird, because I had to improvise a little bit, because I decided to not go for zombie horror. But it was alright. Peter was awesome. I missed the split here, but that was a gold, and it was a legit gold. It was very good, Peter. I think it was a gold. Maybe it wasn't, but I don't know. But it was a good Peter, whatever. No, it definitely was a gold, because I got it first time. Like, no backup. Michael was fine. The only bad part was the horror. It was average horror. Bind. But I've gotten better than that. Like, I guess maybe I lose time compared to other runs, not to the previous one, but to other runs. I probably lose time. Alex had some sloppiness on it because of the position of the worm. I probably need to practice that more. There's a thing about that I have a visual cue that depends on Alex getting outside of the camera range. But the thing is, it's complicated to practice that on emulator compared to a CRT. I use a CRT, by the way, to speedrun, because CRTs usually cut a little bit of the image, just a tiny bit. So in the CRT, Alex goes outside of the camera a little bit early, and that's why I have like mixed visual cues. Maybe I need to get another visual cue that is better. Because the thing is, you want to summon the trapper after you got farther away from the barrier, the place where the barrier is going to be. You know, so you need a visual cue because you cannot see the barrier yet. So then, when you recover movement with Alex, you're gonna be farther away from the barrier because you can get the frame, but if you don't have the good position, you won't be able to cross the barrier. So it's like, I got a frame perfect trick, but with a bad position, so now it's useless. So something to work. And then Pius was kind of not the best, but at least I got a good artifacts at like the second half. And I got pretty good animation cancels, I gotta say. I'm happy with those animation cancels. So yeah, good. Thank you everyone for watching. Remember, this is a pre-recorded PV with live commentary. The live version is actually on my channel. In case you wanna see it, it's also there. That's like, if you like live reactions and controller sounds, you can watch that. Although the commentary is not as interesting, I guess, as this one.